inclusive play area in the town park. Retrospective application for an inclusive play area, amended description, removing fence from proposal. And Mr. Cooper, do you want to do that one again?
Right. This application is being brought to this committee because the play equipment is beyond what is permitted development. So there's a number of items that are more than 4 metres. The application site fits within Town Park and is in this location between Pets Corner and Park Lane. You'll note from here there's a tree belt here, and the overall character of Town Park is that it's open, and that is part of the reason why it was designated and listed by historic England. The proposal, the application site, in a bit more detail closer in, shows the actual play park here. This is the location here, tree belt. You'll note the residential properties here. I'll come on to that in due course. Showing the play park looking towards Pets Corner. Showing the thing, and behind here you can just see the houses on Park Lane. I will show how it looks from on the other side. The application did formerly have an acoustic fence along this boundary, and that was removed from the application, partly due to the harm to the historic character of Town Park. Shows the wider context looking towards Park Lane, looking towards Pets Corner, so you can see the size of some of these pieces of equipment. Again, as you can see, this is higher than 4 metres. And then looking back towards the site in terms of how it fits with the public toilets, Pets Corner, where the application site, and then obviously Park Lane beyond. In terms of the issues here are the impacts. There are 3 issues: impacts on neighbours, which I'll come on to with this slide, impacts on heritage assets, and impacts on highway and pedestrian safety. First issue, impact on the amenity of adjoining neighbours. Park Lane, as it's shown from this, numbers 7 and 8 Park Lane are 60 metres from the play park, and are higher ground and are screened behind landscaping. I'll show that in a minute. And the properties further across are 80 metres. So we're talking about quite a considerable distance, even though the play park is elevated above those properties, as I showed earlier. This shows 7 and 8 Park Lane, as you can see, the distance involved. Again, looking from 7 and 8 back towards back to where the play park is. It's behind trees, behind a footpath, etc. And then that shows the sort of distance and the change in levels looking across. So coming to in terms of those issues, it's considered that because of the screening and the distance involved, that it would not cause any detrimental impact on the neighbours on Park Lane, and on that basis it's considered to be acceptable. Coming on to the impact on heritage assets, there are a number of heritage assets in the locality. The town park itself, the locally listed buildings of 6 Park Lane and the youth hostel building, which is shown on this plan, and so some distances involved. The Greyhound Public House, which is grade 2, which is 150 metres, and 11 School Lane, which is 145 metres. The advice from the Heritage Officer is that the development results in harm to the town park and the setting of the listed buildings, but that harm is less than substantial. So it's considered that because it's not readily visible and its distances involved, and the play area relates to the adjoining developments in terms of the toilets and also the Pets Corner, and there's a low-level fence that allows use through the equipment, that those reasons are set out that the harm is not significant, is not that great, and it's on the less, as we know, it's less than substantial. And also, in terms of Part E of PL 12, which is the test that is set out within paragraph 202 of the MPPF, there are substantial public benefits to outweigh any harm that would result in terms of heritage assets. So that public benefit of the play park, which is a popular play park, is substantial, and on that basis it's considered to be acceptable. Coming on to the third issue, which is highways, in terms of who will be using this and where they park. There are a number of car parks within the town park and within the town centre, and it's considered as accessible, and it's not considered to raise any issues with regard to highway and pedestrian safety by reasons of parking. There is plenty of parking, and people using the play area would walk to it or would be using the facilities anyway. So overall, the recommendation is to grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Right, Keith Ray hasn't turned up, has he? Oh, you are. Okay, you weren't here earlier. Would you like to come forward, please? You've got three minutes. Can you tell us where you live, please?
I live in Park Lane.
Thank you.
Just one point off my little speech. I'm not convinced that the map is correct. I don't quite what the boundaries are, but the boundary this way toward Park Lane is right on top of the fence. So I don't know whether that is in the correct position. I'm not sure what the lines are, but it looks kind of wrong. Like the actual swings comes much nearer Park Lane than the map.
That's because the submission, and that's taken from our geographical information system, so it is accurate as we.
As it can be, yeah, but the swings, if that's the line, you see halfway between your 60 metre, if that's the line of the fence, sorry, yeah, that one, is that the line of the fence or the line of the path? It's the path, is it? Okay, yeah, sorry, apologies. It's important that we sort of judge it on the actual correct information. Right, okay. Right, so thank you very much for giving this platform to speak. I really appreciate it. My name is Keith, and I'm representing the residents of Park Lane that have objected to the application. We all decided not to come here en masse because of the pandemic, so it was just me. The first thing I'd like to point out is that we are all in full support of this excellent facility and fully support all the facilities within the town park. And there's residents that have objected, and we work in Peck's Corner, and we volunteer in the park on a Thursday as well. So we're really important of it. But this facility has been installed with no consideration and consultation with the residents of Park Lane. We feel it's in the wrong position. And if it was done in the correct procedure, which was you come up with an idea, you put it in front of different people, the planners, yourselves, the heritage, and then we all come to a conclusion where the best place is for it. But because and not enough thought went into it, it's like retrospective, we built it. And an example of the lack of thought is obviously the fact that no one actually thought they needed planning permission for it, checked they needed planning permission for it. And so we just thought it would be much better if we were doing it retrospectively for all those concerned. Right. In a meeting with Michael Pitt and Andrew Bramridge, I've got his name right, the residents were promised an acoustic fence to help with the impact of the playground, because we fully supported it. It was like illegal, but that was our compromise, and that what we was promised that from the council. So basically, we appeal, or we grovel, we beg to the committee that obviously we don't want anything to happen to the facility because it's there and it would be wrong, you know, just do anything to it. But we would like a condition on the application that the council does the honourable thing and so if this is passed, if the planning is passed for the swings, the honourable thing is that the acoustic fence will have to be installed as promised by the council officers, and we don't think that's unreasonable. And we don't really think it's right the council breaks their word. So thanks very much for taking the time to listen to the residents from the Park Lane and the swings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ray. Mr. Ray. Okay. Questions, clarification? Councillor Souter?
Thank you, Chair. Have we had many complaints from the residents of Park Lane regarding noise or whatever?
Can I say to you, Mike?
Sorry,
Please.
regarding noise or antisocial behaviour or anything like that?
We've had 10 representations, 6 objections and 3 observations. And we've had complaints about, of those 6 objections, we've had complaints about noise, no antisocial behaviour, but yet noise.
Members?
Could the officer once again say why the acoustic fence was not put in, please?
The acoustic fence was proposed on the boundary here, where I'm showing here in terms of towards Park Lane. There was an objection from the heritage officer, who strongly objected to the installation of that fence, because that fence would need to be, obviously to protect noise, would have to be solid. And as I said, one of the characteristics of the park is its openness, so you end up putting a solid fence, you lose that importance and that character of Town Park. And also, linked to that, the advice was that the distances were set were such, and also the assessment in the report, it sets out very clearly that as officers we do not consider that there is a need for the fence in that fence as well.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Leopard?
It's interesting to note, Tanisha just said about the main complaints are about noise. And the objection to having a solid fence as being part of the town park, well, that's not entirely congruent, because the adventure playground further back in the park does have a wooden fence around it. And I don't see why this should be necessarily different.
Councillor Clark?
Yes, I'm not sure why that is the case, Chair. My understanding was that an acoustic fence was going to be provided. It was just belated in its application, but there is no objection to the principle of the acoustic fence to satisfy the residents. And this subsequent reason, I mean, surely they can, I don't understand it, surely they can accommodate it in some way and have some material that fits the bill without ruining the local heritage or whatever the reason was. I agree.
Councillor Dent?
If we're going on to the debate then, Chair, I think
Was there any questions of clarification?
oh, well, sorry, I thought we were drifted into a debate.
Not
hasn't
yet,
it?
no.
Yeah. Well, it has.
Okay. Can I ask a question
Yeah.
then? Okay. If there was an acoustic fence, how high would it need to be to to stop the sound of children playing.
Probably about 2 metres
6 foot.
at the lowest. A solid fence, but, you know, we need to, I understand members and objectors' views. We need to balance out what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to maintain in the town park, which is an open park that has very clear characteristics linked to heritage assets. And we need to balance that against the amenity issue that's been raised, which is noise. But as we showed, the nearest property is 60 metres away. It may be the case that we could facilitate some sort of middle ground, so a hedge perhaps, you know, which would be in keeping with the town park and would mitigate some of the noise, but it's not going to be a noise attenuated fence, which is a solid high structure that has a visual impact on the park. And you know, members need to be mindful of other developments that could come forward in the park and how we're treating this application. So there may be a softer way to do it, by conditioning a further boundary treatment in the form of a hedge, perhaps.
Chairman?
Question?
Yes. I do believe there is a hedge there already along that southern border. So, I mean, grow it higher, I don't know.
We could substantiate it if we wanted. I mean,
Thicken it up, yes.
yeah, I mean, the officer's recommendation is that there isn't a need for it. The heritage officers looked at it and said, this will be detrimental to the park. We think that it will be detrimental to the park, and that's why that's no longer here. There's a balance to be struck between impact on neighbouring community and the impact on the park, and we're trying to strike that balance. But it is a balanced judgment. Members can come to their own conclusion that they feel fit, really.
Councillor Davis?
To answer the question, Chair, about the fencing around the adventure playground, I think the reason for that is not the noise. I think it's just to keep dogs out. But this play area is actually fenced. It's not the same area, so I don't think it's, you know.
Yeah, there's metal fence going round it. So it is fenced in. It's just not the close-boarded high fence which would spoil the outlook, possibly. Yeah. Councillor Dams, did you? So we've one question.
Yeah, really, no, I haven't got a question.
Yep, I'm just checking there's no questions. We'll go to debate then. Councillor
So
Dams.
it's a difficult matter because it's retrospective. If the residents, as our friend in the audience said, have been consulted in the first place fully, with the planning permission being sought, then what would our reaction have been? Would we have actually compromised and put in the I agree, a fence there will be completely out of keeping with the character of the path, but equally, we've got to do right by the residents if you know, those places were given by Andrew Burridge when he met the residents. So it's difficult, Chair. I really am torn between this because if the fence goes up, it would look, I don't think it would look very good.
I think we've got to do what's best for the town park and
Absolutely.
the people.
But also the residents.
So any more comments?
Jean?
Jean Clark. Councillor Clark, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, yes, I agree on the appearance of the fence, and I think they should just find some material that could somehow be natural, accommodate the residents at the same time. There must be a solution to that, Chair. But in general, I'm glad the residents are accepting the fact that it's there and already exists. I have a very different perspective from them, which won't be popular with Mr. Ray. I walk there every day, so I express an interest at lunchtime and also in the evening if it's light, and it's extremely popular, very, very popular indeed, and it's an excellent facility. And I don't hear noise when I approach it. I hear sound, and I hear the sound of small children playing. And we're talking about very, very young children on the whole. It is an inclusive playground as well, but nevertheless, it's predominantly used by young children. We're not talking about teenagers shrieking, yelling or anything like that. It's just the sound of little children with their parents. And I personally disagree on the noise factor, but there we are. It's near Pets Corner, which is a convenient facility, because what parents do, they tend to go first to Pets Corner and then go into the play area, then go home, sort of thing. So, and they try to keep making it in keeping. That a lot of the facilities are green or simulated green as well, and it's, as I say, an extremely popular facility. I've got sympathy that it should have been consulted in the first place. It wasn't for reasons, but I just think we should try and accommodate the appearance of the park, and also perhaps provide some masking of sound if it is so difficult, but I personally don't observe that. Thank you, Chair.
Susan?
Thank you, Chair. We've got an example in Primary Court by the 414. And what the residents have done over many years, probably about 10 years, they've actually grown a conifer hedge, which is well over 10 foot high, and it alleviates the noise 100%. That is perhaps somewhere where the council can look at as a noise reduction.
No, I think that's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Do we need to
There is a
position?
hedge there already.
Yes, maybe there's big one, conifers as well.
Can I just come back to quick points, Councillor? Not to disagree with anyone at all. Just on the point on Andrew Ramage making promises. So he is the director of Strategic Growth Club. So he signs off all of these applications. So he would have had sight of this. He would have noted the lack of the acoustic fence, and he would have been comfortable with it in signing this off. So that's, from a corporate point of view, that's where we are with this. The other point I'd like to raise, and again, not to take away from any additional conditions that members would want to attach to this, because we're open to that, but this is a play area for small children, as Councillor Clark says, which means they're only going to be in operation for limited hours in the day. So when we talk about noise, we're not talking about noise at unsociable hours, we're not talking about noise from, as Councillor Clark says, antisocial behaviour, as it were. We're talking about noise within light hours of small children laughing and playing. So, again, nothing to take away from any additional conditions, but just to note that the hours will be within social hours. The noise, alleged noise, will be within social hours.
Yes, this is. I would suggest endorse lots of Councillor Clark's comments. It was a godsend, this park during when the lockdown was lifted. It was full of children. I took my young son down there nearly every day. It's a wonderful place, and you're right about the age groups that go there. My only comment and criticism of it was that because so many people returned to taking their children out, it became highly congested inside. And looking around at the slope of the towards the showground, you could almost double the size of that park. It would not have any impact at all against the showground area. I certainly think it's a wonderful place. Sorry, I know it's nothing to do with the application. I just wanted to make that comment.
Okay, shall we go to the vote then? Which is the recommendation on page 120 is to grant planning permission subject to those one condition. All those in favour? Unanimous. Okay. Is that right?